For the first time since Saturday's embarrassing 13-10 loss to Michigan in the Horseshoe, Ohio State head coach Ryan Day took the podium, talked to the media, and was asked point blank if he will be back next year, to which he said yes. He was asked why he is the man to lead the Buckeyes program moving forward. He gave a pretty good answer. And also, he took complete and full blame for what happened in the Horseshoe, saying it, quote, can never happen again. Now, Tim May, the 41-year vet, we've heard that before from Ryan Day.
Well, I don't think everyone put an absolute on anything.
But I thought, given the circumstances and given the questions that he took, I thought Ryan Day did a good job of not deflecting anything, taking full blame for everything, and making sure that everyone understood that they have the playoff in front of them, but they are still dead set on this cannot happen again against Michigan. What did you think of this press conference? Because you've been in a lot of these.
Well, first thing, I wrote that story for us where the stat of the game, in my opinion, was Mason Graham, Michigan's talented defensive tackle, maybe the best in the Big Ten, maybe the best in the country, having 7 tackles in that game. Mm-hmm. After the first couple of tackles, he should have never had a shot at another tackle.
Correct.
Basically running the ball between the tackles, a lot of tackle in there. It's tackle football, so you can't get away from that. But basically admitting I'm paraphrasing now, but they did run their running backs up against a brick wall. And how many times are you going to do that when you decide that what's going on from the Ohio State offensive line standpoint is not getting it done up there? Mm-hmm. I don't know why they really thought they would, but based on the talent that they were going against, and it's still sort of like makeshift offensive line compared to the way the team started the season. So he admitted that was a mistake. Yeah. And that's good. But that means he's had conversations with the guy who's calling the plays in Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator, and maybe a couple times RPOs and stuff, maybe with the guy who was making the decision, Will Howard, but I'm leaving it on Chip Kelly and Ryan Day, the blame for that happening. And let's face it, questions I was going to ask, but they got asked, so I asked later, just my own question. But the idea that he has an exit strategy, that's easy for me to say. Ryan Day was asked point blank about that. He said, no, there's no, he enjoys being the Ohio State head coach. Obviously, Saturday afternoon about 3:30, he did not.
Yeah.
But who would in that situation? But he's in it for a long haul. And then I just kept sitting there while all these questions were being asked, and some of them were questions I would have asked if I could just stood up there and asked 1,000 questions, which I could have, by the way. It's juxtaposed against the press conference. There's basically 2 press conferences. One about this unbelievable recruiting class they're signing today, and then this misery of losing the game for the 4th year in a row.
Yeah.
And clearly he's got a lot of great things going for him as the head coach of Ohio State. Agreed?
Yeah.
And recruiting, having a staff that recruits its rear end off, even new guys like Carlos Loughlin. They got 2 guys from Alabama. I mean, right on down the line. They got a guy from Oklahoma. Right on down the line. My point is, they've got it going on in this program, except for the fact that now, traditionally, for 4 straight years, they've lost the game. They've lost the game to Michigan. Is that reason to get rid of a head coach who otherwise has got it kind of going on? But that loss the last 4 years has kept them from playing from their initial goal every year, which is the Big Ten championship. So it does have ramifications.
It sure does. And we will talk about recruiting today. Nick Walker and I will be on a live stream at some point today on the Lettermen Row YouTube channel.
I was just showing the interesting juxtaposition.
Correct. But we need to talk about Ryan Day and what happened on Saturday. I asked him about the 2-minute stuff because I personally thought that they should have taken timeouts before the 2-minute warning to give themselves more time and get a stop. They did not. They waited until after the 2-minute warning because Ryan Day said you want to get to the offense with as many timeouts as you can. Well, that is a very NFL way of thinking of things because in the NFL, even under 2 minutes, the clock doesn't stop on first downs. In college, it does, so you get a little bit of built-in time stuff there. I asked about that. Ryan Day said they're evaluating that. Somebody else, I believe it was Bill Rabinowitz of the Columbus Dispatch, asked him about the offensive line and whether they will look at things. Ryan Day said point blank, yes. And he almost cut Bill off to answer it, yes.
Sure.
everything will be contemplated, whether that's Luke Montgomery, I'm sorry, I kind of blanked there, whether that's Josh Padilla, whether that's moving Donovan Jackson back inside to left guard and finding another left tackle. I'm telling you, for this offensive line, everything is on the table. He was also asked quite bluntly about Justin Fry's position and the way that he's handled things, and I did not believe that it was a super ringing endorsement for the offensive line coach. Everything is on the table with that offensive line after what we saw on Saturday, because it wasn't good enough. And no, they will not see a better defensive line than what they saw against Michigan. But
correct,
they have to have a better offensive line if they're going to win a national championship. With all of that being said, they're going to get a home game over in the Horseshoe. And I think as Day took as many hard questions as he's ever received in this job, I don't pat media on the back. This is our job. We're supposed to ask him tough questions. But this is a program that wins 11 to 12 games a year. He does not often take hard questions because there are not hard questions to ask. Today, he took them in bunches, and I think now we got answers the way, as much as he can answer, I thought he did answer. So on Sunday, when they get their announcement for the home playoff game that they're going to play, he can start to shift the focus, the energy, the noise surrounding Buckeye Nation all on let's rally around this thing, get to the playoff.
Yeah.
And I think today was important, not just to be positive about the signing class, Tim, but then also like take those hard questions, almost those punches in the mouth, because he stood up there like a heavyweight boxer and just kept taking punches today. And rightfully so. He should do that because there's a lot of damning things that we had to ask him about today. But I think that it will make it better for the college football playoff to where he can just move forward and say, okay, now we're going to the playoff. We're on to the playoff.
Yeah.
And I think that was important today.
They're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah. As his favorite coach, Bill Belichick said.
Yeah, of course you're going to face. I was just, like I said, I've been around here for a long time. I was just imagining Woody Hayes standing up there 5 days after his third straight loss to Michigan back in 1978, and what would have been his demeanor. How would he have handled things? He would not have handled, it would have been a very short press conference. A lot of times Woody was just looking for that one question to get asked where he could, in essence, say, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
The thing I've always liked about Ryan, ever since I first met him in 2017, is he is a gentleman. And at his core, he is a gentleman. He's, as I said, you're always cordial to us, and he's questioning answers. And he's like, hey, we had tough questions after that stupid Cotton Bowl loss when they had no offense.
Yeah.
Remember that game? Which seemed long ago, but was only less than a year ago. Just right on down the line, we had tough questions after the previous 3 losses to Michigan, because it just didn't go the way the games didn't go in one form or fashion the way you thought they would, including last year.
Yeah.
And so then now, but now you've got people from all across the country throwing hand grenades in here, and I understand. It's the way the media goes anymore, or the digital media is. There's all kinds of reasons to be questioning whether Ryan Day should be the head coach. But my point I keep going back to is one of the main reasons is there's talent, big time talent in this building for all kinds of reasons. NIL, transfer portal, but also recruiting. And today is a celebration, for want of another term, of another stellar signing class. And so, yes, Ryan Day belongs in this building. Yes, he deserves to be the Ohio State head coach by any stretch. I think I would stand by that, even no matter what happens in 3 weeks against, it looks like they could very well play Tennessee. We'll see if they in fact play. No, I'm just saying, who knows? The vagaries of the College Football Playoff Committee and how they finally rank things. But the bottom line is, one game a year is really muddy in the waters.
Correct.
For Ryan Day. And
Yes.
And I heard somebody say today he can't win the big games. I go, were you at the Penn State game this year?
Yeah.
Were you there when they played unbeaten Indiana? And then somebody asked about putting Will Howard back into the game after he came out of the tent without his helmet and then got it. He led that last 2 minutes touchdown drive against Michigan, pinpoint accuracy passing after he came back out of the tent.
Yeah.
Not the immediately after, but the next possession. So, it's just interesting, the questions sometimes. And I'm not knocking, because anybody can ask a question.
So,
but yeah, this was all about this press conference, remember how we stretch it, was number one, the future of this team, immediate future of this team, getting ready to play a big-time opponent in the college football playoff and host one for the first time ever. Yep. And the future of Ryan Day and the future, like you said, of Justin Fry and the offensive line and the form it will take against whomever they play in the first round. I think all the ingredients were there, and I thought as a media contingent we covered them. Not that we get together in a huddle and figure out who's asking what.
Okay, I got to get to an ad break. They're going to play a playoff game in the Horseshoe. It's going to happen. You guys can talk fire Ryan Day. Honestly, Ryan Day said, I would understand why people feel that way. He did not even run from that, which is crazy. Normally, guys dig their heels in and everything and say, no, I understand. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. We have not achieved any of our goals. But the bottom line is they're going to play a playoff game in that Horseshoe over there, and it's going to be rocking with 100,000 people in it, whether it's you who thinks Ryan Day needs to be fired and you boo them when they come out of the tunnel, or the people who want to cheer on this team as they go for a college football playoff national title. That's going to happen. Game Time is the place to get the tickets to that game. They're going to be expensive, but it's going to be awesome. You can say that you were in the Horseshoe for the first ever college football playoff game there, because there's going to be a lot of them down the road. GameTime.co, the Game Time app's the place to go. $20 off your first purchase when you use the code ON3. ON3, get $20 off your first purchase in the Game Time app and at GameTime.co. Use the Game Time Picks feature. It lets you sort the tickets. Ohio State's going to play a home game. You might as well be there in the freezing cold. And you wanted a night game? You might get a night game.
It might be 40 degrees that
day. Really cold. Yeah. Tim May will be there. I'll be there. You might as well be there as well. GameTime.co and the Game Time app is the place to go to get your tickets for the college football playoff. GameTime.co, the Game Time app. Use the code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. I want to get back to a point, Tim. Ryan Day asked point blank again why he's the right person for this job. He was also asked point blank, will you be here next year? Will you be the head coach here? And he just said yes. Now, we've heard this from people all over the world. Famous last words of a fool are, I'll be here. I just think you're going to have to drag my ass in a pine wood box.
Well, I think that's what he's saying, really.
But those are on the heels of 6-6 and 7-5. I remember Joe Moorhead said, you're going to have to drag my Yankee, out of here. That was at a 6-6 Mississippi State team. This team still has national championship ability. It does.
Of course it does.
2 of the 3 goals are now off the table. So Ryan Day was asked about achieving goals and what needs to change. He is hell-bent, dead set on getting this thing figured out. Now, whether that's seeing the proverbial or the quite literal light of you need to stop bashing your head against Michigan every time you play them and you need to throw the ball, I don't know. We will find out in 360 days. Because that's exactly when Ohio State plays Michigan again. For now, though, he believes he's the right man to lead this program forward in every facet. The recruiting class proves that is at least partially true. They've got to get offensive line figured out recruiting-wise. How do you think, and we've talked about it a little bit, how do you think he handled those questions today? Because I thought it was correct of him. If you're going to be here, you have to embrace that people want you fired. You almost have to embrace that.
Yeah.
And I thought he did that.
Look at history.
What do you think?
I thought he embraced it. I mean, like I said, he was cordial. I mean, he looked like there was dude, he gets it. He knows what the Michigan game means. If he's had 3-4 doses of it now, of what it truly means to people. 20 years from now, who knows, they may end up moving the Michigan game to the middle of the season.
Who knows? Yeah.
Exactly. It's going to, for the older generations, it's going to always matter big time. That it matters more than making a big college football playoff or winning a national championship, then I think your priorities are in the wrong order there. That's always been my opinion about this game since I first started covering it 41 years ago. But let me finish. I'm not cutting you off.
No, you're fine.
But he gets that. And, I guess the strange moment for Ohio State Buckeye Nation right now is you're so incensed by what happened Saturday. And you ought to be incensed a little bit because of the offensive strategy, some employed, some not employed.
Correct.
We've already talked about that a couple times, you and I already on this thing. But there's another game coming up, and it's the first round of the college football playoff where if you stepping stone, you can play for the national championship and win it over 4 straight games. And to desert your ship heading into the last quarter of your trip, I think would be folly, because this team clearly, and he pointed out, has the ability to compete and win the national championship. It always comes down to matchups. It always comes down to making plays, clearly. But this is not, Saturday was not the end of the world. And it shouldn't be the end of the world for Ryan Day, but that's just my opinion.
I mean, they've already done it before in a way of like, I see national championship banners. I don't see beat Michigan 2012 to 2019 banners.
No.
So, like, if you look around here, and I hope you can see, like, the national championship banners are here. The wins over Michigan are not. If they win the national championship, they're not just not going to put a banner up. Because they...
You didn't beat Michigan.
Exactly. And I'm not... Look, I grew up 45 minutes from Columbus. I grew up, if they didn't beat Michigan by 2 scores, I was getting made fun of by Michigan fans. Because that was all they could hang their hat on. Like, I understand this rivalry just as well as any of you do, because I've lived in it my entire life. But the idea that, yes, there's a Michigan problem here, and it is a clear problem at this point, because you should not lose to that Michigan team. That's the worst Michigan team Ryan Day may ever face in his career.
I don't know, 2019, but go ahead.
No, the 2019 Michigan team was the number 11 team in the country.
Yeah, I know, but they weren't the match of Ohio State.
So, if they win a national championship, all is forgiven. It's not all is forgiven, because you're going to go up to Ann Arbor next year and you got to win that game. But this team can still win a national championship. We're going to talk about that a lot on Sunday, because they're going to get the tournament draw. We're going to be able to break down the real bracket and not just the hypotheticals that the CFP puts out for TV ratings every Tuesday night. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But like, I thought Ryan Day did a good job of digging in, but not sounding arrogant today.
Right.
And I think that was important. I was wondering how he was going to attack this, because he needs to be attacking in it, that he's the right man for this job, that he can reassure the fan base that they're moving in the right direction, that he's the one that can get them back into the winning ways in the rivalry game without sounding like, quite frankly, without sounding like an asshole.
Yeah.
And I thought he did a good job of that today, and we'll see how that carries over, because now, like, officially, he's answered a lot of tough questions today. Now the attention officially turns to the college football playoff, win a national championship, and they're more likely not going to build a statue of you rather than run you out of town.
Yeah. I'm not sure what that last part meant, because they still haven't built one to Tressel.
You know what I mean.
Or Paul Brown, or even Urban Meyer. No, I know exactly what you mean. See, now college football.
I think the statue money should go to the offensive line.
The ultimate goal is to play for the ultimate goal is to win the national championship now, because you have 12 shots of getting into the field, as opposed to the old days when some of these were poll votes.
Yeah.
And then right there, you had the college football playoff. I mean the BCS. The BCS, and then right there you had the college football playoff in 2014. Now you have 12 chances to get into the college football playoff. The regular season is about qualifying yourself for the college football playoff, which Ohio State has done with 10 victories.
Yeah.
Out of 12 games. Now the tournament really begins.
I agree. And the future of the Ryan Day-led Ohio State program begins. I think the college football playoff will be very telling for what the future holds for this program. We'll be there every step of the way. We'll have coverage on Sunday of the bracket reveal. And now we're just going to go right about what we heard from Ryan Day, because there's a lot to dissect from that press conference. It's Tim May, the 41-year vet. I'm Spencer Holbrook. Mick Walker's behind the camera. He's getting ready to be the absolute superstar of the show later on in the day, as we break down National Signing Day from a recruiting angle and not just talking about the fallout from the game on Saturday. Tim, Spencer, go to Game Time, get your playoff tickets. We'll see you guys back in here on Sunday when we talk to Ryan Day in the bracket reveal, and then we'll see you over at LettermenRow.com.